Hey there, adventurers! If you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our amazing community. Don't forget to leave a like if this story hooked you, and be sure to activate the bell so you never miss a new episode. Thanks for watching, and let's keep exploring together. Chapter 5: The Infiltration. The Stellar Hive loomed before them like a malevolent presence in the dark void of space. It was enormous, unlike anything they had ever seen. A floating monstrosity of organic matter fused with alien technology, pulsating with a sickening, lifelike rhythm. The ship didn't just occupy space, it seemed to consume it. Its jagged spires and twisted appendages reached out into the darkness like the limbs of a colossal, dormant beast. Harrington stood silently at the front of the stealth vessel, watching as they drew closer. The size of the hive was staggering, dwarfing their ship and casting it in shadow. It was as if they were insects themselves, approaching a predator's nest. The hull of the hive wasn't the cold metallic surface of traditional warships. Instead, it was a grotesque fusion of living tissue and metal, throbbing with a disturbing rhythm. Veins of glowing energy pulsed through its exterior like the circulatory system of a living organism, sending a faint green glow through the darkness. Titan, seated behind him, shifted slightly in his seat, his massive frame tense and ready. Even he, the unflappable giant of the Ebony Legion, felt the weight of what lay ahead. The rest of the team sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the hive, each of them mentally preparing for what was to come. The steady hum of the stealth vessel was the only sound, but the tension in the air was palpable. Harrington's mind raced through the mission plan, every detail etched in his memory. There was no room for error. They were approaching the most heavily guarded Khardaani ship in the entire fleet. This wasn't just an enemy warship, it was the heart of the invasion, the hive from which the enemy's relentless swarms poured forth. If they could destroy its reactor, it would cripple the entire Khardaani armada. If they failed, Earth would be next. The Stellar Hive grew larger as they approached, and the scale became even more terrifying. The ship seemed to pulse, its surface covered in alien growths, dark metal spires, and swarms of insectoid fighters patrolling the perimeter. The drones moved in coordinated patterns, constantly shifting and scanning for intruders. It was as if the hive itself were alive, its drones acting as an extension of its consciousness, ever vigilant, ever watching. Whisper Kane, seated at the vessel's control panel, broke the silence. "Activating signal inhibitors and thermal disruptors," she said softly, her fingers moving deftly across the controls. The inhibitors hummed to life, casting an invisible net around the vessel, cloaking it from the enemy's scanners. Inside the ship, the lights dimmed, and a tension gripped the team as they became little more than a shadow drifting through the darkness. They were now ghosts, invisible to the enemy's sensors, but still surrounded by danger. One wrong move, and the Khardaani patrols would tear them apart before they even reached the hive. The stealth vessel navigated slowly through the debris field surrounding the hive. Broken ships, dead satellites, and the remnants of battles past drifted aimlessly around them. The wreckage told the story of the countless enemies who had tried and failed to breach the hive's defenses. Harrington's gaze swept across the debris. This would be the final resting place of many soldiers, but not them. Not today. As they moved through the field, Fuse let out a nervous chuckle, muttering under his breath, "All this wreckage, and here we are, thinking we're different." No one responded. They couldn't afford to. Their focus was sharp, their attention on the task at hand. The ship moved steadily, gliding through the silent graveyard of failed assaults. The hive grew closer, and the weight of its presence bore down on them like a suffocating force. "We're almost at the breach point," Titan said quietly, his voice steady but laced with anticipation. Harrington and Titan exchanged a look. They had chosen a weak point in the hive structure, a maintenance hatch deep in the lower levels. It wasn't guarded heavily, but once they breached it, there would be no turning back. The mission would be underway, and every second would count. The vessel docked silently against the hive, the sound of metal meeting organic matter faint but tangible. Harrington moved first, slipping out of the vessel and onto the surface of the hive, the others following closely behind. The surface felt wrong, unnaturally warm and slightly yielding, as if they were walking on flesh. Every step felt like they were intruding on something alive, something watching them. Fuse moved to the hatch and began setting the charges, his hands steady despite the knowledge that, once they entered, there was no guarantee they would ever leave. "Charges set, we're ready to breach," he whispered. Harrington gave a sharp nod. "Do it." A muffled thud signaled the detonation, and the hatch opened with a hiss of escaping air. The team moved swiftly, entering the bowels of the hive. The atmosphere changed immediately. Inside, the hive felt more alive than it had from the outside. The air was thick with humidity, clinging to their skin like a living thing. The walls around them pulsed faintly, emitting a dull glow from bioluminescent veins that ran along the walls like the blood vessels of a massive creature. It was a nightmare made real. The corridors stretched before them, winding in confusing serpentine patterns. The hive was more organism than machine, a grotesque blend of technology and biology. The walls were slick and fleshy, and the team could hear the distant hum of alien machinery deep within the ship. There was a heartbeat in the walls, a faint but steady rhythm that echoed through the corridors, reminding them that the hive was alive. Whisper's voice came through quietly. "We're inside. The tactical map is online, but the layout is complex. Stay close and keep comms to a minimum." Harrington's jaw tightened as they moved deeper into the hive, every step calculated, every movement cautious. The darkness was oppressive, broken only by the sickly green light of the glowing veins running through the walls. The air itself felt thick, heavy with the scent of something alien and decayed. It was like walking through the innards of a living beast, and every soldier in the Legion felt it, the unsettling sensation that they were trespassing in a place not meant for human feet. As they moved through the winding corridors, Whisper guided them with precision, using her equipment to map out the best path to the reactor. The hive's alien architecture was disorienting, filled with passages that seemed to double back on themselves and doorways that opened to nowhere. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Strange fluids bubbled and flowed through transparent tubes, and the occasional clanking sound of unseen mechanical limbs echoed through the halls. Titan's deep voice cut through the silence. "Keep focused, no distractions." His words were steady, but the unease was clear in every face. They were deep in enemy territory now, surrounded by a hostile environment they barely understood. The first sign of danger came when they encountered a Khardaani patrol, a group of insectoid soldiers moving methodically through the lower levels. Harrington raised a fist, signaling for the team to halt. The Legion pressed themselves against the walls, their cloaks activating to blend with the dim, pulsating light of the hive. They held their breath, waiting for the patrol to pass. The Khardaani soldiers moved in a coordinated swarm, their insect-like limbs clattering against the organic floor. Their chittering voices echoed in the halls, sending shivers down the spines of the soldiers. For a moment it seemed as though they would pass without incident. But then, one of the drones broke off from the group, scuttling towards the Legion's position. Harrington's eyes darted to Whisper. She didn't hesitate. With quick fingers, she accessed a nearby terminal and fed a false signal into the hive's internal systems. The drone paused, its antennae twitching before turning away and following the false signal down a side corridor. Harrington exhaled slowly. "Good work," he muttered, and the team pressed forward. Every step brought them closer to the reactor, but the tension only grew. The deeper they went, the more it felt like the hive was aware of their presence, like it was waiting for them. The walls seemed to pulse with a rhythmic anticipation, the glow of the veins growing brighter as they approached their target. Titan's voice was low, but firm. "We're running out of time. Stay sharp." Fuse double-checked his explosives, his fingers moving quickly over the charges he would use to bring down the reactor. There was no room for error, no second chances. The team moved in silence, their communication reduced to hand signals and whispered orders. They were deep inside the beast now, and there was no turning back. They were ghosts in the hive, silent, deadly, and determined.